Jason Witt!
Hey guys, welcome back to SmokeMMA. Today I'm joined by the Vanilla Gorilla, Jason Witt. What's going on, Mr. Witt?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I've been doing great. How are you?
Just kind of going through training camp. I'm in the middle of all the hard work, so it's not bad. But body gets tired at a certain point.
Yeah. So your fight was originally supposed to be a couple weeks ago, but then it got moved back to February now.
Yeah, it was originally November 13th, which I was pretty excited about because I would have got to enjoy kind of Thanksgiving a little more and Christmas a little more, New Year's Eve, stuff like that. But yeah, man, I think everything happens for a reason. I'm not 100% sure why it got rescheduled. I've heard a couple of things. I heard he broke his hand. I heard he had another match. I heard a couple other things, but it is what it is. Yeah, it got rescheduled February 5th. So just kind of preparing for that now and just waiting for that time.
So with the fight being moved back to February 5th, has your mentality for this fight changed at all?
No, man, it's still the same. I'm still one of the same intentions that I have, and I think it just gives me some time to get better. Honestly, I think November 13th would have been a better time for him to fight me, because in all honesty, I think he has to catch up with my skills. You know what I mean? The more time he gives me to catch up with his boxing, I think I have a better chance of doing that than he has a chance of catching up with my wrestling. You know what I mean? It's pretty. I don't want to say I'm a clear cut like just wrestler, because I have striking too. And I knocked Brady down a couple times in his last fight, but I think it's kind of a striker versus grappler type fight. And I think the more time you give me to get prepared, I have a better chance of beating him.
Gotcha. So with all this extra time to prepare, do you ever feel like you're overworking your body in preparation for this fight, or are you still taking care of your body and taking off days when needed?
Yeah, so I've been one of those notorious overtrainers, and I've done a lot of work with not having to have that happen. Especially when I got in the UFC, going to the institute and getting some tests run and stuff like that has definitely been notoriously helping me out. But yeah. So, I mean, I actually just woke up from a nap that I took for 30 minutes because it was one of those days that I just felt like I needed it. So I know when I need to pull the reins back a little bit, and I know when I need to push hard too.
Gotcha. So your next opponent, Phil Rowe, how would you rank him compared to your other opposition?
I mean, I'm going to compare it to my last fight in Barberina. I think Barberina was a lot more dangerous fight. I think Barberina had a lot more experience and a lot more kind of finish factor. And Phil Rowe, he's good. He's tall. He's long. He causes some problems, but I think with my style and the way I fight and the things I put together, and that's the reason we wanted this fight. We wanted this fight the night that I fought Barberina. We called for this fight directly after that fight. So this is kind of something we wanted. This is the fight we wanted, and just happy to get it.
Gotcha. So with Ryan Barberena, you incorporated wrestling a lot. You have very good wrestling. Was that one of the biggest keys to victory in that fight?
Yeah, I mean, he's a big power puncher, not a big kicker, not a big wrestler. You don't see him taking people down too often. He's pretty much kind of a boxer, and knowing how hard he hits, especially after the fight now, like after that third round was a little rough. But yeah, so incorporating the wrestling in, taking him down early, getting him a little more tired, taking away his power is definitely a key factor in winning that fight for sure.
Gotcha. So with his power punching, do you see that as big of a threat in this upcoming fight? Do you have to worry about the power in this fight just as much, or what do you have to look out for in your next opponent?
No, he has good boxing. He's very technically clean. He's going to want to make it a nice, pretty looking fight. He has power. He has the ability to put people away, but it's not the same as a Barberina or something like that. I got to be aware he has decent jiu-jitsu, so I got to be aware a little on the ground, just kind of P's and Q's and to be on point. I mean, he has stuff that can cause problems, but we're really just kind of knocking those away before we get to fight.
Gotcha. And so now to backtrack a little bit, you've mentioned before the road that you had to take to get to your first UFC fight and all the craziness through it. Would you mind telling going more in detail into what it was like to get your first UFC fight?
the most stressful, exciting phone call I've ever gotten in my entire life. So this is 2020. We had just bought a house. We had just bought a gym that I was renovating a little bit. I was putting stuff in, and I had just ordered like a huge squat rack that was supposed to come in for like 2 months, and it was running behind. I mean, it's middle of the afternoon. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. About 1:30. I get a phone call, and I had 3 or 4 missed calls, 3 or 4 text messages that I hadn't got to. So I was with the client. I was personal training. And I hadn't got to those yet. And got that phone call from Joe Wooster, and he's just like, hey, man, drop whatever you're doing. I don't care. Get on the plane, and you got to get there as fast as possible. Like, I don't care if you have clients. I don't care if you don't have clothes. Just we'll figure that out when we get there. So, yeah, man, I dropped everything, canceled all my clients, I had a good 6 clients that day. So, I mean, I had quite a few hours to put in work. But I was eating Chipotle at the time. Put that down, and then literally just jumped in my car, ran home, called my wife, said, hey, man, grab me a suitcase, just throw whatever's in the dryer. I don't care. Throw it. And then I zoomed to the airport, got there. I had a 3 o'clock flight. Mind you, I got the phone call like 1:30, 1 o'clock. Zoomed all over the airport, got to the airport about 2:10. So I made it there in pretty good time, considering I live about 40 minutes away from the airport. Mm-hmm. I mean, we didn't have a fight at that point in time. Like they're like, I was an alternative. Like if I could pass a COVID test, the fight might happen, but I was an alternative for the fight. And I found out the next morning that we had the fight. I made weight that morning. I cut like 13 pounds on 12 hours notice. But just that whole scenario opened just a door for me that got me in the UFC. And now's a harder time, or now's a definitely easier time to get in the UFC because of the way COVID is. You're taking short notice fights. But man, it's still stressful. It's, taking a fight on 48 hours notice is not fun. It's still difficult, but it opens those opportunities. And I think that's something that separates one of our gyms from a lot of people is when COVID hit, we stayed ready, we stayed training, we put in the work to make those short notice fights. And it definitely is paying off. If you looked at the track record that we have, a few UFC fighters at Glory now.
So were you like ready for that fight? Like, were you ready for whenever? Because you said that you took on 48 hours notice. Were you training at the time, or was it just like a rash, just hop in the ring?
No, I'm always training. I don't ever stop training. I think after the Barberina fight was the only time I took a couple weeks off, just because probably need to let my brain heal a little bit. But no, I was training. I had just sparred that Monday. Didn't feel great that Monday. I remember Mike Breeden, who's also in the UFC now, hit me with a couple left hooks that probably put a couple brain cells away. But man, I was always training. I think I trained 10 rounds Monday, lifted on Tuesday, did 5 rounds on Wednesday, and then got the phone call on Thursday. I didn't train that morning, ironically, but I was training. I was prepared for it, but just didn't go my way.
Do you think that cutting the 13 pounds in one day sort of drained you a little bit for the fight?
I don't think it drained me. I think I've cut weight. I think it's more less my brain doesn't have time to rehydrate. Like not doing it properly, my brain doesn't have to put the water back in it needs. So like getting hit, I'm gonna get knocked down a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Like when you look at like TJ Dillashaw or something like that, when he cut to 25, like he cut a lot of weight. He did it correctly, but your body doesn't have that much time to put that in. You know what I mean? TJ didn't get knocked out very often, getting knocked down, but he got knocked out real quick at 25. Same thing with Garbrandt. I think it's too much. I don't think my body had time to prepare for that weight cut, and then the power of Sato to make it work. It's just I think my brain just wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah. So after the loss that you had in your UFC debut, you did bounce back with a win. Now, did you take like a lot of things away from the fight that you had, like going into the next one, or was it like just you had a full camp so you were more prepared for it?
A little bit of both. I think there were so many times in my career that I believed that I should be in the UFC, that I know I had the skill set to belong in the UFC. But like going in there and on 48 hours notice and understanding that I belong there, that really showed me that this is where I should be. I know I can do this. Even on that short notice fight, and it didn't go my way, that's fine. But I know in my head that it kind of validated that I should be there. With a full training camp, it really gave me the ignition to kind of just keep pushing and just grind out to where I need to get the win.
Gotcha. And then like before the UFC, you fought in many other organizations like
All of
Bellator, KCFA, couple organizations before. Compared to the UFC, like what differentiates these organizations?
Yeah, honestly, the organization. You know, what I mean, the UFC is the elite of the elite. It's the NFL of mixed martial arts. It's just organization on how things are put together. You know, FAC is a fantastic run show. There's, you know, what I mean, so like I fought in barns. I fought in, you know, what I mean, like gravel road, horse stall things. I fought all over the place, and just really the organization, just how clean things are. It's really the only difference that you have. You know what I mean? The runtime of fights, the quality of who you're fighting really changes, but it's not, you know what I mean, like a lot of people I fought Isaac Ballifly, who was in the UFC. I fought Jake Lindsay, who was in the UFC. So the quality of opponents isn't like a huge change, but just the organization, just how well things are run is a huge difference.
Gotcha. And then so sorry. You established yourself as a champion in the KCFA before the UFC. You had many title defenses. Can you explain like what the road was to that championship fight and then what it was like winning that championship?
Yeah, honest opinion, I didn't even know I was on a road to a championship for KCFA. I know I had a fight in January that I won. Renegade choked the guy in like 30 seconds, and I was pretty excited about that. And they gave me a fight against Josh Tully, who was the KCFA champion at the time. He was knocking people out. He knocked out a friend of mine. He's a big power striker, but he's, part of my language, he's a fucking asshole. And really, my manager didn't want him being the champion of his organization because nobody really liked him. He just wasn't good for the sport. He's not a good person, in my opinion. And they're like, hey man, with your wrestling and the way you fight, like whether you can beat him, that'll, you know what I mean? And then they were putting me up. They knew I was in the UFC someday, so that was the road to it. But I didn't know that at the time. I was just like, all right, cool. It's another fight.
Yeah.
And mentally, that was honestly, that was one of the hardest fights I ever had because he did flatline me in the first round. Like I knocked him down, he knocked me down on my ass, and I almost didn't make it up. But I did win the rest of the fight very, very decisively. But yeah, that it wasn't even more the belt for that. It was more beating him that was the real celebration. You know what I mean? Like just beating a guy that's a big power puncher, nobody really likes, and just take on that win was more than the belt. And then just holding on to the belt was cool because I've been in the Kansas City fight scene for 13 years or however long it was. So to hold that and just kind of be recognized as one of the top welterweights in Kansas City was just pretty cool.
Yeah, gotcha. So like holding the belt, did you like originally when you won the belt, did you want to make title defenses or did you want to keep moving with your career like to wherever you had to fight next?
It's whatever my management system thought was best for me. I mean, I have a great management system in Joe Wooster and Iridium. And it's whatever they think is best. They set up the fights, they set up the title defenses, they set up whatever. I knew the road that it takes you to UFC, and I know that's the road they were putting me on. And obviously it paid off for both of us. But yeah, they said title defense, that's fine, I'll fight. I mean, I was one of those people that they were just, I remember one day we were sitting in the gym and I think I was sparring and Joe Bush was like, Jason, I was like, yep. It wasn't even like, I wasn't even answering. I knew they were going to ask me a question about fighting. Like, do you want to fight this guy pretty much? I was like, yeah. Like, I didn't care who it was. I didn't care what weight. I didn't care. You know what I mean? I took whatever fight I could. So whether it was a title fight for my defense or whether it was going to Wisconsin to fight a guy on 3 weeks notice or going, I mean, I'm just one of those guys that says yes. Like, I don't care who I fight. If I win, lose, I'm there to fight.
So you're like the fighter's fighter. So whatever rolls across your desk, you sign and you just go get ready for that fight.
Yeah. I mean, even 48 hours notice, or I fought Canada's #1 prospect at the time. After that Tully fight, I think I was like 5-2. This guy was like 11-3. And for me, that was a huge jump in competition for me. It really was. But I took it on 3 weeks notice and I was like, dude, I don't know and it was at 160. or 162, something like that. Like I didn't know if I could make that weight. I didn't know where I was at, and I went and fought him on 3 weeks' notice and beat him in a minute. So I mean, I've done short notice fights before. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. I'm just here to fight.
So like, what exactly got you involved in like fighting? Because like you're here to fight now, but starting out, what got you involved in MMA and like wanting to compete?
Yeah, man. I've always been a very competitive person, right? Most people are like, oh, you're a UFC fighter, you're probably a violent person. I'm not a violent person. Like I don't like fighting. I don't want to hurt anybody, but I like competition. This is the ultimate form of competition. Dude, I didn't even start lifting weights or training until I started lifting weights until I was like 19 years old. I didn't start training until I was like 21, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidence happened, like all this happened like a week or so. I ran into my neighbors next door. They were doing like strength conditioning in their backyard. They sent me to a gym in Kearney. And I went that night and trained with this guy named Bill Brown, who was a huge mentor, huge person in my life and huge part of my MMA game. And then I started training with my uncle, who was a kickboxer or a pro kickboxer and boxer at one point. I started with both of them and took a fight, and it just sprang from there. Like I said, I'm competitive. I don't like losing at all. I lost that fight, and I just kept training. And honestly, just looking back at it, I was like, I don't remember this fight. I don't remember that fight, but I know like these were just the fights that just kept leading. Like I would just take a fight. And if I won, that's cool. If I lost, I just keep training and then keep moving forward.
Gotcha. So do you feel like the losses helped fuel like your motivation to win the next one?
For sure, man. Yeah. I'm one of the people that I learned from my loss. I learned from my mistakes. And I remember when I lost the Sato fight, I was in the back room because they make you kind of like sit there for a little bit, make sure the doctors are okay. And I was like, James, like, why did they lose this fight and what can I work? And he's like, you really want to talk about that right now? It's like, yep, like let's figure this shit out now. Like, I already lost the fight. Like, what am I gonna do? Sit here and cry about it? Like, I can't fix it. I didn't want to lose the fight, but like, what can I work on Monday when I get back in the gym to win the fight? He's like, we need to work on your head movement, which is something we're still working on today. I'm almost 50 pro fights in, and I'm still working on stuff. So it's just being a student in the game and working on what you can.
Gotcha. And so do you feel like wrestling is going to be a big factor in your next fight?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely game plan. You know what I mean? Like if you see me fight, you know what I'm going to do. It's your job. I mean, that's the hardest part. Like I'm going to tell you, I'm going to double leg you. It's your job to stop it. Like if I can tell you I'm going to do something and you still can't stop it, that means I'm damn good at it.
Gotcha. And so I'm just making sure I didn't skip anything.
Good.
That's all the questions I do have prepared. So up next is a game I like to call 10 and 10, where I have the 10, so number 9 to the champion of your current division, the welterweights. And you just give like your thoughts on them in like a brief amount of time. And then, yeah. So starting out at number 9 is Michael Chiesa.
Michael Chiesa, he's huge. That dude is massive. I've seen him in real life. He's a big dude. I think he's very underrated. I'm gonna go with the Gary V underrated overrated here. Man, I think he's a great submission game. I think he's just had some rough fights, some rough losses, but I mean he's a good fighter. He's a lot taller than I thought he was. That's for sure.
And then we got Sean Brady.
Sean Brady, man, that dude looks strong as shit. I think he's one of those guys that I like to fight because I think it would be one of those kind of fight of the night type situations. But yeah, man, that kid's good. He has a very well-rounded game, especially if you're young in his career.
Gotcha. Do you feel like it would be like a wrestling match, like an on the feet stand and bang if you two were to fight?
I think it just goes wherever it goes, man. Like I think he's probably gonna try to take me down, probably gonna try to take him down, but we're both probably gonna end up fighting at the same time, standing up. So it could go either way on that one.
Then we got Neil Magny.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of him lately. I know he wants to fight Hamza Chimaev. Man, he's long, he's good. I want to say I might have trained with him way back in the day. I can't remember if I did not, but he's good. He's just I don't know if he's getting better at putting stuff together. You know what I mean? Like he's finally putting his career and organization of his skill set together. So it's pretty good. He's all these guys are great fighters. I mean, it's a rough, top 10.
Yeah. So do you feel like this is like one of the most competitive divisions in the UFC right now?
You'd have to say yes. I mean, you got 155, 145, 155, 170 are very, very all close competition.
Gotcha. Then we got Jorge Masvidal.
Jorge Masvidal, man, Street Judas. And that dude's good too. James Krause fought him back in the day, and he's one of the smartest fighters, like fight IQ wise. He's like, that's one of the best fighters I've ever fought. And I think it still stands true. I just think he's had a rough run with Usman, but man, he's still good all around, and you got to respect kind of his swagger.
Yeah. Then we got Stephen Thompson.
Underrated. I think he's so. I mean, look, did Jeff Neal just fought recently, right? Fought Saturday. I think
Jeff Neal just fought on Saturday against Santiago Ponzinibbio, I think that's how you pronounce it.
And he fought Wonderboy too, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken, was that his last fight?
I think so. I don't know if it was his last fight, but I know he did fight Wonderboy.
Yeah, man, he's such a hard puzzle to figure out. You know what I mean? Like, he has such a special skill set that he's really hard to figure out. And he's the nicest motherfucker in the world. Like, he's the nicest guy. You can't be mad at him. You can't hate him. But yeah, man, I think he's very underrated. I think his kickboxing is fantastic. I think he's kind of one of those guys like you just hope one day wins the title just because he's been around for so long, kind of like Dustin Poirier. Like, I was pretty upset that Poirier lost, and Oliveira is a fantastic fighter, and he deserved to win the fight. But it's like, you just kind of root for guys like Poirier and Wonderboy and people like that.
Yeah. What is your opinion on Wonderboy's karate stance and how he uses it?
Man, if it works, it ain't. If it works, don't fix it. You know what I mean? He's so good at it, and like, he's just so rangy and so long. He's so hard to figure out. Like, he's a puzzle that you have to figure out. And people have, but at the same time, he's still good at it. I think you should keep using it and just learn to implement more stuff into it.
Gotcha. And we got Vincent Luque.
Luque, man. He reminds me of my boy Mike Brady in our gym. Just a really good boxer. I watched quite a bit of film with him because he fought Barberina. I was kind of figuring out how he beat Barberina. Man, he's good. Just real good power, real good stand up, and a lot of good pressure.
And we got Leon Edwards.
Man, I haven't seen much from him lately, but man, I've never seen him in real life. But he looks like he's a big boy. Like, he's like 6'2", 6'3", something like that. But yeah, I think he's good. I just like to see him with some tougher competition because we haven't seen him fight in so long.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that he should be next in line for the title. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree?
Who's his last fight? I can't.
His last fight was Nate Diaz.
His last fight. Come on, it's Nate Diaz. No. Should be for the title, maybe, but like, before he fought Nate Diaz, when was the last fight? Like 3 years ago?
I think it was early 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, your timeline's better than mine. I just think he needs to fight a higher ranked opponent. I mean, is Nate Diaz? I don't think Nate Diaz is ranked right now. Not even sure.
No, Nate Diaz is not ranked right now.
So I think he should fight a higher ranked opponent before he gets put into in title contention.
And yeah, so his last fight before Nate Diaz was on March 13th of 2021. Against Bilal Muhammad, and it ended in I think a no contest.
That was an eye poke.
I think so.
Yeah. Those are two fights. It's been in a long time, and those are two fights that it's been a long period of time, and he hasn't really. Bilal's not up there with the top competition. He's fighting Wonderboy. But I just don't think that puts you in line to fight Usman. You know what I mean? The number one guy.
Gotcha. Then we got Gilbert Burns.
That dude's good. It is good. I think he just shot his chance against Usman, and he hurt Usman in the beginning, and he gave him a really good run for his money. Like, he just kind of burned himself out and then just didn't do what he needed to do. But man, his all-around skill, his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. His striking's very, very good. So I mean, I think he's definitely up there for a good reason.
And we got Colby Covington.
Man, you could say what you want about that dude, but that dude can fight. His pressure, he he didn't look as good to me against Usman in the second round, which I don't know if that's Usman or that's him going to MMA Masters. I don't know which one's the difference is. Because Usman's one of those guys that gets better with the rematches. He's just keep getting better over and over. But Covington, man, his pressure and his conditioning is better than a lot of people I've ever seen. You know what I mean? You don't ever see him get tired. You know, his pressure, his amount of punches thrown in a fight, and his wrestling skills are just fantastic. I watched a lot of his fight against Barberina too, and in preparation for Barberina, just because watching how he took him down, which way he did it, you know, how he did this, and his wrestling's phenomenal. His conditioning is probably number one in the division for sure.
So before I say Kamar Usman, because we all know he's next, do you feel like watching tape is a very big part of a training camp for any fight?
Absolutely. If you're not watching film, you're doing yourself a disservice. You know what I mean? Like that's there's multiple ways of learning, and that's just one of those that needs to be done. Film study is phenomenal. It's something I need to do more of. It's something that I should do better. But we got guys in the gym like Grant Dawson, Trey Ogden, James Krause, of course. They all watch film. Grant Dawson's one of the best people I've ever seen at breaking down fights. He'll watch it from 6 different perspectives, and he's just good at that stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons he's gotten so good so fast. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people haven't seen him like from where he used to be 3 years ago to who he is now. And it's a complete change. I think that's just studying and being in the gym.
Gotcha. All right. And now number one, the champion, Kamar Usman.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal fighter. I think he's beatable though. I really do. I think he has some holes in his game. He's one of those, like I said earlier, he's one of those guys that he is getting better. And he's going to continue to get better. I think he's just in like the beginning of his career. I also think Colby Covington did take him down. I think that takedown was worth a takedown.
I agree.
He should be 100% anymore. But to have a 100% or 99.6% takedown rate, defense rate is fantastic. Like that's saying something in this division. You know what I mean? You got people like Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington. So yeah, I mean, he's just good all around, and he's just continuing to get better. And I think he's gonna probably stay on top for a while, but I think he is beatable. I think people will find holes in his game, and I think somebody coming up will definitely do that.
Gotcha. And now, who do you think has better wrestling between Usman and Covington?
I'm gonna say Usman. I think Usman could have took Covington down anytime he wanted to, honestly. Yeah. And it took everything Covington had to take Usman down once, or
gotcha.
Time, or whatever people want to say it is. I still think it's a takedown. He had to get back up to get, you know, it's called takedown. You had to get back up.
Exactly, and he had him on both hands and knees. And just in normal wrestling, that's 2 points right there. He had control.
Yeah.
So, all right, and that's 10-10. So now I'm going to run through a few upcoming fights. I just want to hear your prediction on them, if that's all right.
And let's go.
All right. So starting it out, we got Stephen Thompson versus Bilal Muhammad.
Mm-hmm. I got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson on that one. I think his range is just going to be too good. Kind of like a lot of people like Vincent, we talked about earlier, had a lot of problems with him. And Vincent's boxing is fantastic. But Wonderboy just picked him apart. He couldn't figure out the range. I think Bilal's going to have a very similar problem.
Gotcha. Then we got Derek Lewis versus Chris Daukaus.
I'm not putting money on that fight. I will never put money on Derek Lewis or anybody, because no matter, I mean, the dude hits you one time, or any of those dudes hit you one time, you're gonna fall over. I'm gonna take Derek Lewis. No, I'm not betting the house on that one, but Derek Lewis, I think he'll take the cake. He's just, you gotta love the guy though. He's fantastic.
And then we got Cannoneer versus Brunson.
Oh, I got Cannoneer. I think Cannoneer slips him. It depends on if it comes in blonde Brunson or just regular. I mean, there's a difference. But yeah, I think Cannoneer would just be too much for him.
You think the power is going to be the big difference in that fight?
I believe so. You know, that's a rough one I'm going to look at, because Cannoneer, if Cannoneer kind of shoots his load in the first round or whatever, and just Brunson can take him down, and that's a hard one to figure out. Honestly, I'd have to kind of watch a little bit more of it. But yeah, I think if I want to put my money, I think Cannoneer.
Do you believe that the winner of this is going to be like the number one contender for the next title shot?
I mean, who else is there?
Robert Whitaker, Marvin Vettori, and Paulo Costa are all ranked above them, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Whitaker's fighting January.
Adesanya, yeah.
16th.
He's fighting
20
Adesanya 271.
Yeah. So I mean, he's already out of Paulo Costa. That dude needs to stop drinking and get off the roids. But yeah, so I mean, you got those two who are right underneath that, but I don't think either one of them come close to beating Adesanya either. So yes, I think they should be the number one contenders because he's run through both of those people already, or Costa and whoever wins the Whitaker fight round 2. But yeah, so you got to put him up there.
Gotcha. All right, and then we got Figueiredo versus Moreno 3.
Moreno. I think he just has it. I think he has the number. He's figured it out. I mean, Figueiredo hits hard, but I mean the last 2 fights are phenomenal fights. They're the fan favorites to watch. But man, I just think Moreno's just has the number.
Do you feel like the wrestling is gonna be a big difference in that fight again, like how it was in the rematch?
I believe so. I mean, I don't see them working too much different on fixing that too much. I think it'll help out a little bit, but I think Moreno's just coming out with the victory no matter what. Gotcha.
Then we got Francis Ngannou versus Real Gang for the heavyweight title.
Man, it's another one of those. Somebody gets hit, they're going down. I'm gonna go with Francis on that one. I think he's one of those guys also getting better. His striking is starting to clean up a little bit. He's starting to understanding range. If you look at his fight with oh my gosh, why can't I think of his real name right now?
Stipe?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. With Stipe, first round, he kind of gassed himself and got beat up for 5 rounds. But the second fight, he was very more composed. His striking was better. He kind of figured out how to throw combinations without just winging punches. So I really think he's going to come to this fight better than he's ever been. He's really young in his career too. He's one of those guys that he hasn't had a lot of fights, but he's definitely getting better. And I think Cyril's an athlete. That dude is massive and moves really well. But I don't think he's going to be enough to take over Ngannou.
All right, and then we got Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whitaker.
I got Izzy, man. You can't bet against that dude. He's just good. He just understands range and his technique is just perfect. I don't see anybody in that division beating him right now. I mean, he went up 205 and lost, but I think that's just, he's not a big dude anyway. I don't think he walks around. I don't think he made 205. I think he was like 203 or whatever it was. So
yeah, he was a decent amount under the weight.
Yeah. So I mean, he was, I don't think he needs to go to 205, but there's not really anybody right now to beat him in the 185 division.
And then we got Jan Blachowicz versus Alexander Rakic. Rakic.
I haven't seen, no, you're good. I haven't seen him fight to make a pick on that. But if I was gonna bet it, I'd go with Blachowicz just because you can't win a championship and come off losing your championship and then not want to come back hungrier. Like that me if that was me as being Blachowicz, I'd come back being like, I don't know how I just lost to this guy. I had to come back hungrier and fix the things that I need to work on. So I'd go with Blachowicz just on the fact that I think he would be hungrier for that belt again.
So what do you think went wrong for Blachowicz in that fight with Glover Teixeira, if anything?
I don't know. I need to go back and watch it again. But I don't know if that could have been a weight cut or what, but it just didn't look – he looked a little more flat-footed, didn't look as – like he didn't pressure as much like he usually does, and just I don't know. I really need to go back and watch it again just to understand it again. But yeah, Glover I think just kind of put a little bit of pressure on him and didn't give him the space, and he just wasn't responding well that night.
Gotcha. And so that's all the matchups I have. Now I have one last question for you. And what is your fantasy UFC matchup?
You know my fantasy matchup? Mike Perry.
Mike Perry?
In the UFC anymore. He's making a shit money and whatever that Thriller shit is. But I've always wanted to fight him. I think he'd be a lot of fun.
Now, how do you see that fight playing out, like if it were to happen?
We either knock each other out or I just take him down and beat the shit out of him for 3 rounds.
Hey, it's always valid.
He's big, he's strong, he hits hard. But so does a lot of people. That only gets you so far in this game. There's you know what I mean? If being big and strong and hitting hard won championships. You know, there wouldn't be people like James Krause in the UFC division, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's not a big, strong, hard hitting dude, but that dude's good. But yeah, I think Mike Perry would be a fun fight. I think there'd be another fight of the night bonus waiting to happen.
Gotcha. So that's everything I got for you. Is there anything that you want to say? Closing statements?
No, man, I appreciate having me on. Thanks for the time.
No problem. All right, everyone. That was me and the Vanilla Gorilla. We just had our interview. Sorry, I can't speak right now. I'm gonna drop all your links for like all your socials in the bio of this video. So go make sure to check them out. And yeah, thank you so much for doing the interview, Mr. Witt.
Not a problem, man. Thank you. Appreciate you.